Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Please find your seat. I hope you're enjoying your meal, and we do ask you to turn off your cell phone as we start the main stage program. Good afternoon, and welcome to the second event in the Provincial Leadership Series presented by Manulife. My name is Ian McLean, and I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we live and work in the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples as we seek a renewed relationship based on a foundation of mutual understanding and respect. As participants in today's event, we're coming together as one. We believe everyone is free to be their true self and receive the same respect and opportunity regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, culture, identity, sexual orientation, beliefs, or language. We hope you'll join us in fostering a positive environment here today to ensure a safe and welcoming space for all. I'd like to take a moment to thank our community partners and sponsors, again to Manulife, to our community partners, the Grand Valley Construction Association, North Guide, Waterloo Region Home Builders Association, our friends at Activa, and I think I'm forgetting someone, Goodco Company, Goodco Productions, Clack, and moving back, I missed somebody in my notes here. It'll come to me before the North Guide, there it is. So I knew it was coming up. So thank you to our partners and supporters of the Chamber. And thank you to our host venue sponsor, the Crown Plaza KW, for their hospitality. Please take a minute to just help me thank these sponsors and partners. Lots of interest in our event today, and I do want to recognize a few folks that are joining us. There's a number of local and regional councillors, but also joined by Regional Chair Karen Redmond, City of Kitchener Mayor Barry Verbanek, City of Woolwich Mayor Sandy Shantz is with us, City of Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe, Mayor of Wellesley, Joe Nowak is with us. Where's Joe? There's Joe. And I do want to also recognize a number of our board of directors here. I think we have Kathy Snyder from the Chamber Board. That's Kathy here. Where is she? Stephanie Soulis is with us as well from Little Mushroom Catering, and Scott Gilfillan from PwC, who's past chair of the Greater KW Chamber Board. Thanks to everyone joining us in person today, but also virtually as well. I now have the pleasure of introducing today's speaker, Bonnie Crombie, the leader of the Ontario Liberal Party. She was mayor of Mississauga, Ontario's third largest city, for 3 terms, where she was known for her visionary leadership to create jobs, build complete communities, and celebrate diversity. A mother of 3, she has been a business executive and previously served as a Liberal member of Parliament and as a city councillor. She's going to join us and give some brief opening remarks and then join me in between the ferns for a fireside chat. Please welcome to the stage Bonnie Crombie.
Thank you, Ian, and good afternoon, everyone. Really great to be back here in Kitchener-Waterloo. Love coming in. It was particularly interesting to drive in today, to look at all the familiar names on all the office buildings, companies employing thousands of people right here in the community. Names you all know: Google, BlackBerry, I know Barry's a big fan, Apple, OpenText, and so many more. Automotive plants and agri-food companies like Dare. American giants right beside homegrown success stories. It's an important reminder that we share more than a border with our southern neighbors. Our economies are woven together. We have American friends, colleagues, and family members. And that makes this moment even tougher. Because right now, we have a fight on our hands with our American friends. We as Canadians, and as the people of Ontario, have to fight like hell to protect our economy. From Trump, from tariffs, from the economic earthquake about to shake our province. We are united, 100%, with every bit of patriotic love in our bodies, behind Team Canada. Because the only way to stand up to a bully is with strength. The people of Ontario are strong, and we're even stronger as a part of Team Canada. I am fully behind a coordinated response by the provinces and the federal government to fight back against Trump. We must stand behind the people in this room, the business owners and workers here today. You need to know we'll be here for you as long as you need us to be, as long as Donald Trump's war with us carries on, and far beyond that. And I make a commitment to you that there is so much right now that is not in our hands as a province. So we also need to focus on that what we can control here in Ontario and how we make sure we are stronger coming out of this than we were going in. The first part of my plan is about getting the basics right for the people of Ontario. We'll cut income taxes, drop the HST off home heating and hydro to keep more money in your pockets. About $1,150 a year, I think. We'll also cut hidden taxes on home construction. They're called development charges. And save $170,000 on homes. And we'll phase in rent control. I said earlier to the round table that we'll also cut the land transfer tax for seniors, for first-time home buyers, and for not-for-profits, where they apply. We'll also offer a $150,000 bonus, you're going to like this, to patriotic nurses and doctors who are currently practicing in the United States. You know, over the border in Detroit rather than in Windsor, in Buffalo rather than in Niagara, who want to come home and support our publicly funded healthcare system because we need them. The second part of my plan is about economic resilience, and I'm sure a lot of this will ring true here. Because we have to abandon the notion that any single industry will rescue our economy. Those days are over, right? In the last few days, I've spoken to industry leaders, and some of them I know you know, John Ruffalo, Jim Balsillie, who agree that it is absolutely imperative to diversify our economy, not put our eggs in one basket. And to do it by investing in sectors where we hold a strategic advantage. So that's what we'll do. And as part of that, we will give Ontario businesses an important backstop. The Fight Tariffs Fund, FTF, I like to call it the F Trump Fund. That's just between us. This will provide Ontario businesses with access to cheaper interest rates for operational costs or capital investment so that they can borrow at government rates. To help them keep workers or hire new ones as they grow. We will set ambitious new goals to save money so that we can reinvest in Ontario. And we will guarantee that all infrastructure stimulus spending focuses on the things that people actually need. We will tear down provincial trade barriers. We have to. And we will make sure Trump's buddies like Elon Musk aren't getting rich off Ontario procurement contracts, like rip up that Starlink agreement, right? when we have the same technology right here in Ontario, for goodness sakes? What a waste of $100 million. But this plan will ease the burden for families and workers and business owners. Finally, and I've said it from day one, that I am focused on healthcare. Across Kitchener and Waterloo, across the entire region, close to 150,000 people, 150, don't have access to a family doctor. It's a staggering number. So I will connect everyone in this province to a family doctor. That is our guarantee. I know that the people of Ontario have faith that we can get this through, that we're going to get this through this very difficult time. We're going to do it together. We will, but together. But people have lost faith in Ontario's ability to take care of them. I can't imagine a world where we come out of this economic storm and instead of 2.5 million people without a family doctor, that number doubles to 5 million, because of course we know that about 3 million more people are in jeopardy of losing their family doctor because they're set to retire. It would be catastrophic. So if you want to leave, I want to leave you with an email that I got just a couple of days ago. I get a lot of mail like this, by the way. This is not extraordinary in the sense that what people are facing, the hardship they're facing. But I'm going to only read one in the interest of time, but there are many. This lady writing into me, she said, Bonnie, recently my mother was taken by ambulance to the emergency ward at Credit Valley Hospital in Mississauga. Obviously she knows. Part of the Trillium Health Network, where the current Secretary of Cabinet, Michelle D'Emmanuel, had been the CEO and former executive assistant to the Minister of Health under a Liberal government. Quite ironic, she says. While on a bed in the hallway for the entire 24 hours, my 94-year-old mom, hurts me because mine's 89, didn't receive any food. She had to ask for water and wasn't taken to the washroom. This really pains me. She's immobile without her walker, which was not brought in with her. And she was generally neglected. But that's not the worst of it, Bonnie. Behind her, also in the hallway, a man was screaming in pain, an elderly man screaming relentlessly. There were several people at his side who were quietly singing to him. There didn't seem to be any help for this poor man for hours and hours. And then all went quiet, and he died right there in the hallway. Yeah, that's the state of our hospitals today, my friends. And that's what drives me every single day. That's who I'm fighting for. People like this man, my mom, your parents. Thank you for having me here today. Want me here?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Oof.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Bonnie. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. I know how busy it is with the election, and once again, as we get started with a series of questions, I mean, the cross section of our community broadly, and our business community that supports the chamber. You can see it in our sponsors and partners with Manulife, Activa, CLAC, which is our labor union,
Yep.
Cornerstone Association of Realtors, the Grand Valley Construction Association, North Guide, Waterloo Region Home Builders, and again, our partners in Best Waterloo, the two chambers of commerce, Communitech, Waterloo Economic Development Corporation, and Waterloo, Explore Waterloo. It's a broad cross-section. It covers just about every sector of the economy. And I guess it leads, us to, I mean, we're here. I appreciate the comments about trade and tariffs and the ridiculous. I mean, I think everyone is, the mood of the country is people are angry. I think we're coming together, and that's going to take everyone, business, government, Team Canada approach. But we are in the middle of an election campaign, and I guess, I mean, not just you, but many have said it's not the time for an election. Is it unnecessary given what's happened with Donald Trump? Don't we need a strong, response?
Yeah.
So I guess the question is it an unnecessary election? And since we're into one, what's the conversation worth having?
So Ian, it's an excellent question, and it is absolutely an opportunistic election. It's unnecessary because, of course, the Ford government has a majority government, right? They can govern until June 2026. So they should be at their desk working, head down, hands on the steering wheel, accomplishing a response, working, bringing us together, bringing industry together, all sectors together to create a response. But instead, they went to an election, a snap election, in fact, in the middle of the winter, $189 million being wasted on this election that could have gone into healthcare, could have come into Kitchener-Waterloo region, right? A lot could have been done with that money. But my view is that this is an attempt to cling to power. Sorry to be cynical. And it's also because we know that this government is under a criminal investigation by the RCMP that they're trying to outrun. And we've been hearing rumblings that things are moving forward. So I think this is an attempt to outrun that. I seriously do. Why? When you know there's a threat coming with an incoming president rattling the saber of punitive economic measures, including tariffs, would you choose this moment to go to an election call? There is not another premier in this country that would dream of such a thing. They know their people need them. They need to have a plan, and they need to be working hard for their people right now to protect them. I'll go further, and you'll probably be asking me, but I think he's failed to protect us, failed to protect our economy and our jobs. I don't think he's done the basics. I said he doesn't get the basics right. But even the plan, what's the plan? Okay, we're going to remove beer and wine from the LCBO. Great. What are you going to do for stimulus for our industries to protect them? At least we have a fund so that our companies can borrow as needed from the tariff, the FTF tariff fund that we've created so that you can borrow at government rates. At least it's one measure. We've got other measures planned, but I think it's an abdication of duty that everyone in government needs to be at their desk doing their jobs right now to help protect workers and jobs.
So the threat of Trump tariffs is existential to the Canadian economy, but most certainly to the Ontario economy with auto sector, advanced manufacturing, and the supply chains that are so integrated between Canada and the U.S. So specifically, I mean, you've talked about one, which is the trade fund that you're proposing to put in place. What are some of the other things that you would do as Premier right away in terms of responding to Trump? Like, what's the approach? Is there the short-term, other long-term things we need to do as well?
So first of all, let me say, and I think we've all been feeling it, people really coming together, Ontario procurement, Canadian procurement, buy Canadian. That sense of unity and patriotism has come alive. I've canceled my trip to the United States. I'm dropping my American boyfriend. That's the latest one I heard. But I don't have one, but I'm just saying. But we need a united approach to be consistent. And there is no daylight between my approach right now and Doug Ford's. I agree with him on most of the measures, obviously the procurement measures and buying local and buying Ontario and buying Canadian. But there are lots of other things that we can be doing. But I would have started before today. I have to be honest with you, Ian. Because I was mayor of a great city, and like many of the mayors in this room and the chair of the region, they know how important it is, and I know Barry does this all the time. You're always bringing investment into Kitchener. And that's what we needed to have done. Build up a more diversified trading relationship, not only with 17 states, but what other nations? And what about internally in Canada? What about breaking down trade barriers in Canada to allow that our Canadian, other provinces are our trading partners. So I would have diversified our economy. That's the role model I used in Mississauga to make it an economic engine. I picked that up from Hazel and continued it as well. 4 strong pillars. It was IT, advanced manufacturing, life sciences, and finance, insurance, and real estate, something we called FIRE. But we were looking always for investments in those sectors to create jobs so that we would thrive and set us up for growth. That hasn't been done. Great. I mean, how many of those US governors does this premier have a relationship with? There are 17 states where we are their first or second largest trading partner. How many? How many? So I think the work needed to have been done before now. And plus, and I spoke about this in my remarks, it's about getting the basics right for people, because they're worried about losing their jobs. We've heard 450,000 to 500,000 jobs could be lost. People are struggling now. They're having trouble putting food on the table today, paying their rent, buying their groceries, paying their cell phone bills. They're not even thinking about buying a house anymore. So they're struggling today, and now there's the threat of losing a job. So my goodness, people are worried. I would have put those basics in the place, as well as provide with our healthcare. As I said, we're going to talk about the healthcare plan, because our healthcare system is crumbling. So is our education system. People are lacking affordability. I always like to say, let me get this in. Is your life more affordable today than it was before Doug Ford? And it's not. And we need to do more for people. And then, of course, build homes. I know we have a number of home builders, and I have some measures prepared for that too.
Okay, so let's just drill down on the one that you talked about, because I mean the heavy work of getting interprovincial trade barriers eliminated. We talk about it and nothing happens. And the Ontario Chamber, the Canadian Chamber, our local chambers have been calling for this for decades, saying we need to do that. We have free trade with the U.S.
That's right.
But we don't have free trade inside Canada.
Yeah.
So, but I guess the question is, we're in a crisis right now. At some point, knock on wood, the crisis will pass. What are you going to do to make sure that you, if you're premier of the province, are going to go to your colleagues and say, we can't let this opportunity or this situation, we cannot allow passing the opportunity to eliminate interprovincial trade barriers. 3-4% GDP growth right away. If we do that, yes, there will be some dislocations. Are you committed to doing that and making that a priority? Because that's the transition that Ontario needs and the country needs.
Well, so that's why I mentioned it, even ahead of your question, because it's so vitally important. And I think I see that political will now amongst all the premiers that know they have to knock down trading barriers, whether they're mutual recognition of credentials, whether it's harmonizing codes and standards. There is so much, something basic as the import of wine from another province, alcohol. So it's about labor movement. It's about goods movement, and that should have been fixed by now. But now is a crisis. If we're going to have obstacles to trade with our largest trading partner south of the border, let's tear down obstacles internally in Canada and remove those barriers interprovincially.
Okay, that's great. Listen, and the next series of questions are related to the region of Waterloo. We're fast growing. We're over 700,000. You were mayor of a large municipality, third largest in the country. But the region of Waterloo is set to be somewhere around 1 million people, give or take, but close to 1 million people within 20 years. One of the things that has been of concern for over 10 years for both of our chambers of commerce is the fact that we don't have large assembled land for investment. What we know is, as we grow and 300,000 people, pick a number, but roughly that's 100,000 jobs. We need anchor employers to produce, a chunk of jobs, but also have supply chains, much like Toyota does for us here. 9,000 jobs, but there's 27,000 jobs that are in the region of Waterloo. So it brings me to land assembly. It's been very contentious here. Some of it's related to process of why didn't we know. I was on city council, you were on council. You don't talk about these things until you're ready to. But let's talk about land assembly, because it is absolutely essential for this region to be able to have the jobs and the infrastructure that are required for us to be successful. So I guess the question is, where do you stand on the issue of land assembly for a large tract of land where we are going to need that if we're going to
To
be
attract a
successful.
big investment, absolutely. So I'm really excited about their growth potential. You're going to have a million residents, 500,000 jobs. You know, you need a new hospital. You need the second phase of your LRT. I'm very aware of your needs here. But with respect to land assembly, now I do support land assembly. I know you need to do that to attract those large investments. And whether it's auto or whatever it is, for me, Ian, it was largely the process issue. You know, there was no transparency, and this is on the feet of Doug Ford. I've got to be honest. There was no transparency in how those farmers had been dealt with or negotiated with. You know, the province, the local councillors came together. They were all required to sign NDAs. There wasn't much disclosure to the farmers. They wanted to know were there other options that had been looked at, you know, what the price they would be paid. And then all of a sudden we saw, and maybe you know this individual, I do not, but I heard there was a third party middleman, some developer came knocking on their doors at the same time offering them more money. So there seemed to be a lot of flaws in the process that have to get it right. I think they were owed more transparency. And that is really the key process failure. And you know, whether or not there had been other sites available for the investment that was coming that had been reviewed. I mean, I met with them. They seemed reasonable, but they felt like they had been betrayed because they weren't given all the information. And there seemed to be people who knew ahead of them, and they weren't being dealt with fairly. So fairness, equity, transparency, those are good things in the democratic process. But I lay this on the feet of Doug Ford, and that this has been a failure of the Economic Development Department at the province to not have done so. That said, do you need land accumulation to attract big investors? Of course you do. You want to grow, and this will aid in your growth and your ability to create those 450, 500,000 jobs that I know you want to create.
So I'll take that as a win that you're in favor of land assembly here in Waterloo Region because it's required. I would say there's lots of misinformation on both sides. Fairness needs to be the underlying, pillar when you are doing these things. But as a mayor, I was a councillor. We have lots of local officials. You don't talk about these issues until you're done. And that's a problem is the process. If it can be modernized, that's something that your new government can do and put new things in place of how regions and municipalities negotiate. Because this is not something, and I say this, I've heard enough of it. This is not being done to us by the province. 10 years ago when we lost the Snyder's plant, the Chambers of Commerce said we lost that because we did not have land assembled. And so for us, we've been talking about it for 10 years. Get us large assembled land so that we can compete globally to have those next things. So we'll look forward to working with you and your government if you're elected on land assembly here in Waterloo Region. One of the things I know, as a mayor, you work with small businesses, the engine of our local economies. I think most chamber members, the vast majority, would have 20 employees or less of our 1,600 members. That's the lifeblood of our local economy. If you're premier of the province, how are you going to support and encourage the importance of the small business sector to create the jobs and the prosperity that the provinces needs in order to support the social services we all expect?
Excellent question. So I used to like to say, as mayor of Mississauga, we had 100,000 businesses, but 96,000 of them were small businesses, small and medium-sized businesses. Sure, we had 1,200 multinationals and 75 other major to very large companies, but it's the small businesses that were the engine, and that's where you want to see the growth, whether it's in the startups, the accelerators, or in the incubators. So we have a plan that I think you pay too much taxes, folks. I really do. So we're going to slash small business taxes in half from 3.2% to 1.6%. Hasn't been done in a long time, not to that degree, but it's necessary. And we're going to increase the threshold on which it will kick in from 500 to 600,000. And that'll save small businesses a minimum of about, I calculated it actually, about 18,000 a year. So it's a huge win. You know, it might mean hiring another person or, you know, or adding new equipment. It's great news for small business. And that on top of the other measures that we would provide, which is a tax cut for lower income earners, anybody earning, so for the first 75,000 you earn, you'll receive 22% less in your taxes. So that's great news. And I said we would lift the HST off home heating and hydro, just to bring more affordability. And I know you're going to ask me a question, I think, about housing, so I'll wait for the housing stuff for later. But, you know, we've got to incentivize our small businesses. We need you to be strong. And the reality is many are just, you know, two partners or mom and pop operation, very small businesses.
I would say we're not 60 minutes because we've signaled what questions we're going to ask you around the things.
Well, then I'll keep my answers shorter so you get more.
No, well, it's good. No, it's all good. But I want to go back to your promise and healthcare broadly. I'm going to talk a little bit now about family physicians as the gateway of primary care, as the gateway to healthcare. But we're also going to talk about the new hospital. But let's start with, you know, and the numbers are alarming. We've been doing family physician recruitment on behalf of the community in Kitchener, Waterloo, and Woolwich Township for, I don't know, 25 years here in Waterloo region. The question is, and the numbers are alarming. What's the plan? Like, what you've got a plan? You say everyone's going to be attached to family physician within it was a 5 years. But what's the plan? Like, what are the specifics in order to do that? Because this is not just a challenge in Ontario; it's a challenge right across the country and, frankly, globally.
Oh. Well, here, I mean, I think we all know examples from abroad, particularly European countries, where they seem to get it done in a way that we haven't been able to. But when we were talking about small businesses, just wanted to reiterate our future tariff fund that will help you borrow at government rates. And I think that'll be very helpful to small businesses in this time of crisis, too. But my key priority is got to be healthcare. You know, there are 150,000 of you here in the Kitchener-Waterloo region that don't have access to a family doctor, and that number is only going to grow, quite frankly, as doctors retire. So my idea is that we put $3 billion into family medicine, and yeah, we got the fund to help attract doctors and nurses back. That's the patriotic fund. I love that too. But we need to, so 6,000 family docs have left the profession, all right? We got to incentivize them to come back, and that's where that $3 billion will go, to attract, retain, train, whether it's foreign trained, and by foreign trained, listen, not only trained abroad, but some of our kids have gone abroad to go to medical school, right? I see shaking heads. The UK, Poland, Bahamas, then they can't come back in. They can't get a residency post. So we're going to add 2 new medical schools, but that's a little longer term, I concede that. But we're going to double the number of residency posts, and we're going to double the number of people that are going through what's called the PRO, the Practice Ready Ontario. We got to get more family docs in. And let's be honest, some of that money is going to go into increasing their funding because it's been frozen for a long time. And they actually earn they earn less money each and every year. You know, the cost of their rent goes up, their salary costs go up to their staff, but they've been frozen. So it's less and less attractive to go into family medicine, especially when you're spending half your time, 20 hours a week, doing paperwork. Can you imagine? That's what they do. So we're going to take away fax machines, get them Scribe, it's automated technology to help them. We're going to help them and lower that administrative burden. Plus, if they work in teams, they can lower that administrative burden. But we're going to put the funding aside to get more family docs in, train them, attract them back, and incentivize them to go to, not here, because this is beautiful, but more remote areas. Francophone doctors that are needed in Eastern Ontario and Northern Ontario. Listen, we need more docs. How many have been to a hospital lately? What was your wait time? Right? 12, 15 hours, because you would have gone to your family doc if you had one, but you didn't. So you took your sick child into emergency instead and waited there. So that's the plan.
Those are things that you're talking about is when we are dealing with family physicians that are going to retire early, it's because of the administrative overburden, and it's just not no one wants to go into family medicine right now. And so, but it is the gateway to healthcare, and so that, I mean, we have a partner in us to make sure that we get those.
And the $3 billion that we're spending is the same as the amount of in the pre-election checks you got. That costs $3 billion too, those $200 checks. And I concede, fun to get a check from the government, right? You're getting your own money back, right? It's taxpayers' money. But what do you do next month? This was great top up for rent and
Okay,
whatever.
so one of the things that
Groceries.
we talk about in the chamber always is government efficiency and for business to be more productive. One of the things we've done locally here, the two hospitals have voluntarily merged their operations. We need a new system of care to produce better outcomes, better results, get more efficiency out of the hospital sector. And so congratulations, and we are supportive of the Grand River Hospital and St. Mary's coming together. They're pillars of our community, but we haven't had a new hospital built in 60 years. But by coming together, we know we're going to get improved patient care, we're going to get increased efficiency, we're going to strengthen our community health. But what we need is we've selected a site, but we need the government's approval. It's coming. We're asking for approval on behalf of the community in March 2025 of that planned merger process to get the final approvals. We just want to get people on the record. Are you supportive of what we're doing here in Waterloo Region, getting that over the finish line?
Yes.
Good.
There we
We
go.
can move on. That's all we need
Let's
to
move
do.
on. How could you be opposed to healthcare? We're running on healthcare. And you're going to create a lot of economies of scale in building that new
But
hospital
what I
as
found
well.
interesting is it's a community that's come together.
It's a community hub, and it's collaboration with all your
They
partners.
have come together and said, we need to do this for the betterment of our community, so that's great. It wasn't always that easy to get buy into that, so that's
Well,
wonderful.
the other thing is, this government will give you money for capital, but you need the operating, right? You need the operating funding. That's pretty critical too.
So where we're at, the site selection has been done for the new comprehensive hospital. We haven't had a new hospital in 60 years. The community has grown by hundreds of thousands since the time the last hospital was built. We've got the redevelopment site. We need approval, so this is a little into the weeds, but we're at the point of needing stage 1.3, stage A and B funding, which is part of Infrastructure Ontario. Want to make sure that is something that will be a priority, because we recognize there is hospital needs right across the province. And this, for us, is important to make sure we're at the top of that list, and we're going to be in that funding window. Is that something that your government would commit to?
Oh, absolutely. I want to get this done as quick as possible, because I wish we could start it. Well, we could start it on Feb 28. What do you think?
Okay, so let's go. I mean, ultimately, the question is we're working on the hospital project and for its future prosperity for the community. We have the plan in place. We already are starting the fundraising process, because communities need to fundraise a lot for those things. We've got the investments in patient outcomes, and I guess specifically when we pass the rest of the hurdles, will this be a commitment in your first budget to fund the new comprehensive hospital in Waterloo Region?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is your third question I'm saying yes to. I had that opportunity this morning to tour that Lang Health facility. Oh my God, what a treasure you have here. So yes, let's build something as efficient as that, as beautiful as that, on a bigger scale. How many beds do you need?
You got me
How many
at
beds
a
do you need?
disadvantage. I think it's 358, but it's all in the plan, and
Okay.
it'll all be there for you.
Perfect.
Now, we're going to talk about housing, and obviously we talked about we're 700,000, we're on our way to 1 million, requires somewhere in the order of, and we had some dispute, it's either 70,000 or more housing units of all descriptions in order to get us there. The challenge is that both the private sector and the public sector faces the cost of infrastructure, but for private sector, it's DC charges, permit costs, approval delays, skilled labor shortages, and on and on and on. The question really is, how will a government you lead, ensure that the public sector portion of what needs to be done, which is approvals, and as mayor, the regulation and fees, all of those things get put together so that we can build more. We need to build more, and we need to build faster. What's the plan to make sure?
And you need more choice too.
Yeah.
You need a variety of housing, not just tall and sprawl as they like to build. So I'm going to be honest. In 2022, the Ford government came in, they said they'd build 1.5 million homes, and they were going to incentivize communities and give you the infrastructure funding. Oh, wait, they didn't say that, did they? No, you're going to build homes, you're going to do it on your own, and then guess what? Nothing happened. The mayors, I can see many of them here, work so hard to attract investment, to build housing, but it's been an abject failure on the part of this government. We built more homes in 1955 than we're building today. We are a drain on the country. BC is building 70% more homes than we are. Alberta, 36%. Even in Quebec, 26% more homes than we're building in Ontario. We are a drag on the numbers. We are actually build fewer homes than we did before. So we got to make it cheaper for the consumer and cost effective for the developer. And I know land accumulation is one of your biggest costs in purchasing of real estate. So how can I make the cost go down for them and the price go down for the consumer? And we talked about this at our roundtable conversation, because my plan as a former mayor, like you should don't cover your ears, because I'm gonna make it good, don't worry. But we're gonna remove development charges. Now, the reason I'm looking at the mayors is because they've leaned on these as a source of revenue forever, because what they really need is a new deal for cities, which they're going to get. But I'm going to repurpose a fund called the Ontario Building Fund and call it the Better Community Fund, and we're going to repay the development charges that they would have received out of that fund directly to them. So of course, ultimately the home purchaser has to pay it. So it will not impact the developer. It'll be waived to them, and it won't affect the home purchaser. It'll save them, depending on the community, somewhere between $100,000 and $170,000 just on the price of a home. And there'll be that market competition to ensure that everyone buys into the program and does it. I also said we're going to waive land transfer taxes, the provincial portion, for any senior, first-time home buyer, or a not-for-profit. That'll add to it. And then, of course, we've talked about phased-in rent control, but more importantly, we really have to clean up the landlord-tenant board on both sides, for landlords and for tenants. There's a 53,000 case backlog. It has to be addressed. You have to appoint adjudicators. And what we've learned through COVID is actually the negotiations and the hearings are better done live, because that's when you enter into deals and negotiations and you can get stuff done. So there's a lot of room to be done, but I really want to kickstart the development business, the growth business, because we do need to build homes, but we need a variety of homes, not just tall and sprawl. We need choice. We need family homes. We need some places for seniors to retire. I mean, they're not going to retire necessarily. Some of them want a smaller house, but they don't want a townhouse because they can't climb stairs. My mom has a walker, and I'm always aware of that. She's aging at home, and I got to get her more supports, and I promised her I would do that. But a variety of housing, towns, stacked towns, smaller, larger, etc., for large families, for seniors, for everyone that they can afford. And that's why I know when I came back from the leadership race, we talked about a 4-unit as of right everywhere, change the zoning laws, make rezonings faster and easier. I have to tell you, I've real biased against MZOs, and I think all the mayors here do. We passed a motion at our city council to say they can only use them for affordable housing or long-term care facilities, not for market housing. If you need to clean up the process to get a rezoning, let's clean that up. So it doesn't take the builders, and I know they're in this room, 2 years to get a simple rezoning.
Yeah. Okay, let's move. We're going to talk about LRT. Our LRT program, phase 1, has been an undeniable success. It produced a lot of over $5 billion of investment along the corridor because it was set down. We know that we can add more when we do phase 2. And we can't build the housing that we need. We can't have the community that we need unless we complete the LRT. We said we were going to do it in very legitimate reasons. We're going to do this in 2 phases. The first phase, our citizens paid 1/3 of the cost. So that's on our tax.
P3.
P3. Well, it was the province feds and us, but many other systems are being 100% funded by the province. I guess the question is, we can't be successful as a community without LRT being finished from Kitchener to South Cambridge. Will you support that ask when it comes and jointly fund that between 50% province, 50% in the federal government? Because we've done our part. We need the next phase so we can build the housing and the community we need.
And you're a success story. Look at the ridership numbers. They've exploded. People are using your LRT. It's state of the art. When we were building ours in the city of Mississauga, we came to see it, and we were really impressed at what you were doing. And good thing you got it done now, because they wouldn't have funded you. Look what's happening with Eglinton Crosstown and all of that. But you have my commitment because my values are those that believe in building public transit. And I think that is, I mean, this is those aspirational projects that have to be built that can't be done on the backs of municipalities because their budgets aren't designed to cope with that. So yes, the province has to step up. Yes, we will step up, and I'm sure the feds will as well because, well, at least this government, I can't speak to a different one, but federal government believes in infrastructure funding and they want to fund public transit. So yes.
Okay,
Real success.
almost out of time. I know you've got such a busy agenda as you're on the campaign trail. So two final questions. Across the chamber network, nationally, provincially, locally, we've been all talking about the importance of trade-enabling infrastructure, whether it's roads, bridges, transit, rail, all the things, ports, and all of those are things that Ontario needs. What are the sorts of, and again, we can get into pipelines, water, energy supply. There's a whole range of things there. What are the things that are going to be a priority to create the economic conditions for more success for Ontario?
So these are the priority infrastructure investments, which would include hospitals, like your Grand River St. Mary's, number one, public transit, like your phase 2 of your LRT, schools. There's such a huge backlog in the repair of our schools and the building of new ones. So those are the key. Let's get the basics right, because we haven't in a very long time. So healthcare, the hospitals, the schools, the public transit, and let's get the housing built as well. Those are the priorities that make life more affordable for people.
Okay,
it's all connected with your success.
Just as we wrap up, for anyone who's put their name on a ballot at any level, it's a very public job interview. So over the next four weeks, you're going through a job interview today and right across the province from in every corner of the province. Why do you believe that you should be the next Premier of Ontario? What's your elevator pitch of why you should be the Premier of Ontario?
That's great, thank you. So I'm a different kind of leader, as you've seen. You've probably never heard a Liberal standing on stage promising they're going to cut your taxes. Because of my training as a mayor, I see all the municipal politicians here. We're very fiscally responsible. That's our training. The revenue you raise is the revenue you spend. So no deficit spending. Those are my values, my priorities, but I'm very socially progressive. I think I bring unique experience. I have business training. I was 20 years in a business career before I entered in politics, and then great training under the helm of Hazel McCallion. But look, I've made a number of commitments, and I'm going to stick to them. I have a track record of building growth, building investment, and building public transit, and I'm going to get it done. Doug Ford said he'd end hallway medicine. He didn't get it done. He said he'd cut your taxes. That was one of his campaign promises back 7 years ago. He didn't get it done. He said he would build housing. He didn't get it done. We will. That's the difference. I've made those commitment to the basics, because until we get the basics right, there can't be growth. You're surviving, you're not thriving. So that's my commitment to you. We're going to get it done. I've got an exceptional team. Some of the candidates are in this very room. You look around the province of the people who have come to the Liberal Party, many of them currently elected officials, many of them, I've got a former president of the OMA, I've got former Olympians. We've got an incredible slate of candidates, and I'm feeling really good. We are gaining a lot of momentum, and people are angry. People are angry at this election call because it's not the right time. When you have a majority government, continue to govern. At the time of a crisis, you should be at your desk, and that's where I would be. You have my commitment.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I do appreciate you fitting us into your election campaign schedule and keeping this with us. Just as we close, I'd like to once again thank our sponsors and partners. Again, Manulife, our title sponsor, our silver sponsor, Activa, bronze sponsors, Christian Labour Association of Canada, and Cornerstone Association of Realtors. Our community partners, the Grand Valley Construction Association, North Guide, and the Waterloo Region Home Builders Association. To our production sponsor, Good Co Productions, and our hosts here at Crown Plaza KW. And of course, a special thanks to all of you for attending today, both virtually and in person, for continuing to make these events possible. We have 2 more events within the Provincial Leaders Speakers Series, with the next event scheduled for Tuesday, February 11th. For full details and to register, please visit our website at greaterkwchamber.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a great day. really appreciate you taking time